Hello, you beautiful thing, you. Welcome back to our channel. For those of you who may be new here, my name is Kat, and I am Crafty Cats. Today's video is going to be Brite Tone 101 or Brite Tone Basics, whichever you prefer. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the basics of Brite Tone and how to use it correctly. So, if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes. I want to make sure to stay on track because those of you who know me, you know that I could be a little squirrely. So I'm going to be looking down every now and then. It's just to look at my notes. I promise I'm not being rude. So the first and most important thing about Brite Tone is prep. Prep is very, very important when it comes to Brite Tone, and that's because that is your base. A good prep is a good foundation for the rest of your tumbler making journey, if you will. So you want to make sure that the prep is done correctly and correctly. Now, when it comes to prep, there's a few things that you want to keep in mind. Now, for those of you who make tumblers, you already know this, but for those of you who are just getting into tumblers, there are two different types of tumblers. You have a prep tumbler, which comes from the factory like this. This is mainly for epoxy users because as a crystalac user, we still have to sand this. There is a coating on here to keep the tumbler from rusting. Though it may be a light coating, there is still a coating on here to protect the tumbler itself. So when it comes to using Brite Tone, all you have to do is sand this very, very lightly because you don't want to scuff the white. Even though I have, it's not a big deal. You don't want to scuff the white though, because that defeats the purpose of a prepped tumbler, right? So you want to do a very, very light sanding with a 400 grit sandpaper, and then you could go ahead and go into using this. Now this, some people like prep tumblers, others don't. Personally, I love prep tumblers. It does make it a lot easier for me because one, you're working with a white base, so whatever base color you put on top of it is going to be very vibrant. And two, it's just a lot easier to work with. Now this is your standard tumbler. It's just a standard stainless steel tumbler. Both of these are by the Steel Magnolia. You'll know because of the bottom. This is a patent that the Steel Magnolia made. Just quick plug. But yes, this is just a standard steel, stainless steel tumbler. This you have to sand a little bit more. I'm not sure why, but the factory coating on this, I feel like is a little bit thicker. But even with this, you don't have to go into sanding super crazy. Like, you don't have to, like, take a sanding, machine to it or whatever. I don't know what they're called. Anyways, I digress. But still, 400 grit sandpaper, you sand it. So I find that the power wash method works best for me. You may not think so. It's up to you. And there's also different ways you could strip this tumbler. You can use the sanding paper. You could use citrus strip, which I have some right here. I am running low, but it's the gel citrus strip. You just take some aluminum foil, you put that down, you put this on the tumbler, take a paintbrush, make sure that it's evenly coated. You wrap up the aluminum foil, stick it in a Ziploc bag for about 30 minutes. I tend to leave it overnight. That's probably longer than you need to do, but that's just what I do. In the morning, you wash it off and it's stripped. That personally is my favorite way to strip these because it's the easiest way. I am very lazy, so I'm one of those work smarter, not harder type people. So I'll strip it using citrus strip most of the time. But again, that's also why I like the prep tumblers, because that I could take 400 grit sandpaper to, and it's stripped in a matter of, 3 minutes. So it's up to you which one you want to use. Personally, I'm just a prepped tumbler kind of gal, and you know, just take off the top coating. Now, when it comes to sanding, and I'm going to make a video about sanding going in depth, so this way you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Us Crystalac users use what we call the water test. And basically all that is you take the tumbler, when you're done sanding it, run it under running water, and then you pull it out. If it beads, you know you have to sand it more. If it creates like a sheet, then you know that it's sanded well enough and you're good to go. Like I said, I'll make a video about that a little more in depth, so this way you can really see what it is I'm talking about. Now we're going to go into humidity and temperature. This is very important when it comes to Crystalac. You want a good humidity level and temperature. Get yourself one of these. It's going to be your best friend, I promise. And I know it's backwards for you, but this is the humidity, this is the temperature. So right now I'm at 71 humidity and 68 temp. Now, whoa. Now, ideally you want 70 humidity, 70 temp. Now, there are ways to get around the humidity level. If you're like me and you live in the high desert or the desert, there are ways to combat low humidity, and I'll get into those in just a second. But temperature, you want it at 70 or above. You don't want it too hot because Brite tone doesn't like direct heat, so you don't want it like stupid hot. But you do want it around 70. I find 70 works best for me. And the reason being is streaks, and it helps with your application. So with humidity, if you don't have good humidity, you can get a humidifier like I do. This humidifier is a lifesaver. She makes sure that I'm on point when it comes to humidity level. That's why it is right next to my cup turners. And I sit pretty well. It looks like the lowest I got was 55. Which is fine. Normally, without any kind of help, my humidity down here is probably 20%. So it's pretty low. One way you can combat that, if you don't have the means to get a humidifier, which is perfectly fine, you could get Crystalac's reducer. Now, with the reducer, it does help with humidity, but this also extends your dry time. Now, dry time with this is 6 hours as opposed to 4 hours. And you can add this into their glitter glue, Brite tone, what have you. But this will help give you a little bit of extended work time. So this way you don't have to really worry about humidity, because humidity does help with the application. That's what helps keep from getting streaks, and it helps to give you a little bit longer of a work time. The drier that your environment is, the faster that the Brite time will dry. Brite tone will dry. So get yourself a humidifier, reducer, whatever, and it'll help, I promise. And I'll make a video about troubleshooting some issues too. So next we're going to go into application. Now, application is super simple. You do not want to you do not want to overthink the application part. All it's going to do is confuse you and frustrate you. So when it comes to application, you take your tumbler, you take your Brite tone, one sec, take your Brite tone real fast. When it comes to Brite tone, do not shake it. You will get micro bubbles. You don't want that. Just roll it on your table lightly like this, back and forth just a little bit, just to get those solids incorporated. The solids are what makes that nice hard like surface, if you will. So you roll it back and forth. Application is super simple. For those of you who are coming from epoxy or thinking about switching from epoxy, I know you guys measure. So you'll want to take one of your measuring cups and measure about 2.5 milliliters. I did that as a test, if you will, okay, let me stop for a second. So I measured out a measurement that'll work on pretty much all size tumblers. Now, if you go into the 32 ounce, you might want to add a little bit more, but 2.5 seems to work very well with all tumblers. And I did that so that way it's a little less of a daunting change for you epoxy users. Me personally, I just slap this on and go. So I will pour some on and lightly with my finger, just lightly spread the Brite tone. Normally it's on my turner and I'm letting it turn, and I'm just very, very lightly spreading the Brite tone with my finger. And I'm talking very lightly. The harder you push, the more streaks and micro bubbles that you'll get. And with Brite tone, you cannot use heat to pop the micro bubbles. Brite tone and heat don't get along. So you don't want micro bubbles. So very, very lightly with your finger or a brush. You could use a brush as well. You just want to get the Brite tone very evenly coated. I mean, you don't have to worry too much about evenly because it will self-level. But all on the tumbler, and we do what's called wet it and forget it. So you literally get the tumbler wet. Make sure that all parts of the tumbler is wet. That's why I like to use my finger personally. Don't forget the butt. You want to make sure you get the butt. And then you just leave it. You literally wet it and forget it. So it'll be on your turner. You go ahead and get the Brite tone on there. You leave it alone. You tell your Alexa to set a 4-hour timer, and then you're good to go. You do what you need to do after it is the timer is set. So application very, very lightly with your finger or a brush. Make sure that the tumbler is coated, and then you leave it alone. You let it go for 4 hours. Don't mess with it. Overworking it is going to cause streaks and micro bubbles, and you do not want that. Now we're going to go into timing and dry time, which I did go over a little bit. 4 hours in between coats. It's a must. You can't get around this. The only thing that is different is the glitter glue. That is 2 hours dry time. But everything else is 4 hours. And if it has reducers, it's 6. If you put on product before then, you will get what we call orange peel. And it looks just like an orange peel. And that's because the way Crystal-Lock works is it dries from the top down. So the top will feel dry and ready to go. But down underneath the top, underneath those bottom layers, it's not dry. So it'll create like little craters. So that's why you have to wait the 4 hours to make sure that it's dried from the top all the way down. Now we're going to go into sanding between layers. This is a little tricky. So this is something that you kind of have to feel and you have to judge for yourself. Now you want to be careful that you don't sand too early and scratch your glitter or whatever it is you're working on. Let's say I'm doing this tumbler and the glitter. What I like to do is feel the glitter. So I seal my glitter 3 times at least with glitter glue to help alleviate some of the Brite tone layers that I have to do. Now with this, I would seal twice with E6000 spray first because I don't want my glitters to mix too much. This, normally with my ombres, I'm very picky because I get the ombres the way I want it and I want it to stay that way. So I'll spray twice with E6000, spray once, hour, let it dry, spray twice, hour, let it dry, then go into with 3 coats of glitter glue. From there, I put on the Brite tone Brite tone layers until it's bumpy, but you can feel that it's kind of smooth. And then we'll go in with our first sand. You're going to sand with 400 grit sanding paper. If you go 220, which you can do, I don't suggest personally, this is just me, but if you go 220, you want to be very, very light with it because it is a stronger grit. So you're more liable to scratch your tumbler, or glitter rather. So I personally use 400 grit. I have literally a roll of it over here. And once I get a good amount of Brite tone on, I will sand and then go into my actual application layers of Brite tone, which is what we're going to get into now. And then, you know, go from there. Now, when it comes to layers of Brite tone, I do not count my layers. Don't ask me how many layers that it takes to make a product, because I can't tell you. Honestly, I cannot tell you. I don't know. I don't count. And that's because everything differs. Now, this was an ombre with vinyl. That's it. Pretty standard for a tumbler. But you have to put on the Brite tone until you get a nice even, what am I looking for? Anyways, it's got to be nice and soft for you to put your vinyl on, so your vinyl doesn't look bumpy. From there, you seal the vinyl, and you go until it's nice and smooth. Now, this is going to take more Brite tone layers than this. This is just simply my midnight blue. Is that right? Yeah, midnight blue with some micro glitter and then vinyl on top. This not going to take that much Brite tone, because you put your base coat on, you put your micro glitter mixed in your Brite tone. I put, I think, two layers of Brite tone over that till it was smooth, put my vinyl on, and then I put on enough Brite tone until I couldn't feel the seam of this. So I probably put on, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you. I don't know, because I don't count them. And then this guy is 2 pieces of fabric, glitter, and vinyl. So this guy took a lot of layers, because you have to keep layering until you get the desired look that you're looking for. Now, what you do want to count is the amount of layers you're doing in between sandings. So what I mean by that is I like to do 3 layers of Brite tone and then sand. You could do between 3 and 4, but you want to do 3 layers, 3 or 4 layers, a level sand, 3 or 4 layers, a level sand, and then do that all the way through until you get the product that you're looking for, that finish that you're looking for. If you do not sand, you're not going to get a smooth surface. It's never going to be that glass-like finish, because it's going to be bumpy. So you want to make sure that you're sanding. The first sand that you do is kind of up to you. You have to just kind of get a feel for it and make sure that it's not so much that you're going to scratch the glitter, but not so much that you have to sand the crap out of it to get it a level sand, because you want a level sand. And that's about it for the basics. Prep, by far the most important. Humidity and temp, you want a 70-70. Application, do not overwork it. You don't want to overwork it. It's just going to stress you out, I promise. Timing, 4 hours. Always, always, always give it that 4 hours. Sand between layers, and don't bother counting your layers. It's only going to stress you out, I promise. It doesn't do anything to count your layers. It's just a headache. So if you have any questions, please leave the questions in the comment box below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I do work until Saturday, so I may not get to them right away, but I promise I will get to them and answer them to the best of my ability. I am going to be doing a couple of videos. I'm going to be doing troubleshooting video for you guys, because I know a lot of people have issues with Brite tone and Cricut. I'm also going to do a Cricut one. That one might be a little further down the road. I'm going to do a sanding video to show you how to sand correctly, and then a couple other videos on top of that. But I'm going to stick to 1 video per week right now, just because I'm trying to get back into the groove of things. And if I do any more than 1, I'm going to stress myself out, and we don't want that. So please let me know if you have any questions down in the comment box below, and I promise I will get to you as soon as I can. If you're not subscribed, please do so. I would love to have you guys. And I hope you have an amazing day. Don't forget to take 10 minutes to yourself. It's super important. You've got to take self-care. I don't care what the 10 minutes is. Just make sure that it makes you happy, and have a blessed night. Bye, guys.